Lila was lounging lazily on her couch, half asleep after a long day, when she sensed a presence. Warm, furry, and strangely polite. Opening one eye, she found herself nose to nose with Oliver, the bobcat at the sanctuary where she volunteered. Ears twitching and eyes hopeful, Oliver gently placed a paw on her chest. Lila stroked his spotted fur, but when she paused, he tapped her again, patiently, like a gentleman inviting another dance.
"What are you asking?"
She teased. Each time she stopped, Oliver repeated the polite tap until she relented. This is the story of Oliver, a bobcat with manners so impeccable, he melted hearts, changed minds, and proved that even the fiercest creatures can crave connection. Before we start, hit the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The morning Oliver arrived at Pine Ridge Wildlife Sanctuary in northern Minnesota, nobody expected him to survive. Dr. Margaret Winters, the sanctuary's lead veterinarian, was only 34, but had already developed a reputation for handling the toughest cases. Even so, the sight of the young bobcat made her heart sink.
"Found him by Highway 61.
Officer Bill Henderson explained, gently lifting the cardboard carrier. The 63-year-old conservation officer, just 2 years from retirement, had seen it all in his 4 decades of service, but his voice still carried a weight of sadness.
Mother was hit by a semi. This little guy was trying to wake her up when we found him."
Through the carrier's mesh window, a pair of golden eyes blinked slowly, filled with a confusion that went beyond physical pain. Oliver, though he didn't have a name yet, was barely 6 months old, his spotted coat matted with blood that wasn't entirely his own. His left hind leg hung at an unnatural angle, and his breathing came in shallow, frightened gasps.
"He hasn't made a sound,"
Officer Henderson continued, his weathered hands gentle despite their size.
"Not a growl, not a hiss, just watches everything with those eyes. In all my years, I've never seen anything quite like it."
Dr. Winters nodded, her dark hair tucked efficiently under her surgical cap. Despite her youth, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had found their calling early.
"Let's get him into exam room 3. Call Lila. She's got the magic touch with the scared ones."
Lila Peterson had been volunteering at Pine Ridge for 5 years, ever since finishing her master's degree in wildlife biology. At 28, her long blonde hair often pulled back in a practical ponytail, she moved with the natural grace of someone who had grown up around animals on her family's ranch. When she entered the exam room, she found Dr. Winters carefully sedating the injured bobcat.
"Poor baby."
Lila whispered, noting how even in his terror, the young cat maintained an odd dignity. While most injured wildcats would snarl or attempt to bite, this one simply observed, his eyes tracking every movement with intelligent awareness. The surgery took 3 hours. The leg was badly broken but salvageable. As Dr. Winters worked, Lila stayed nearby, speaking in soft, continuous tones about nothing in particular. The weather, her garden, her grandchildren in California. She'd learned long ago that the sound of a calm human voice could anchor an animal through trauma. When Oliver woke up hours later, groggy and disoriented in his recovery cage, the first thing he saw was Lila's face. She was sitting in a folding chair beside his enclosure, reading a book aloud. It was Charlotte's Web. She always read children's books to the recovering animals, convinced that the gentle rhythms of stories meant for young hearts had healing properties.
"Well, hello there, sweetheart.
She said softly when she noticed his eyes open.
You're safe now. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you're going to be okay."
Oliver blinked slowly, a gesture that in cat language meant trust. Even through his pain and confusion, something in Lila's voice reached him. He attempted to shift position and winced, the movement sending sharp reminders through his bandaged leg.
Oh no, don't try to move yet.
Lila cautioned.
Dr. Winters did beautiful work on that leg, but you need to let it heal. Are you hungry? I bet you haven't eaten properly in days.
She prepared a small portion of the specially formulated food for recovering carnivores, placing it carefully within reach. Most bobcats, even injured ones, would wait for humans to leave before eating. But Oliver, maintaining eye contact with Lila, slowly pulled himself forward and began to eat while she watched.
My goodness!
Dr. Winters said, appearing in the doorway.
In my 12 years of practice, I've never seen a bobcat so civilized. It's like he understands we're trying to help.
He's special.
Lila agreed, watching as Oliver finished his meal and then, extraordinarily, attempted to groom his face with his good paw.
Look at him trying to clean up after dinner. What a little gentleman.
That's how Oliver got his name.
Like Oliver Twist.
Lila explained to the other volunteers.
He's an orphan who's maintained his dignity despite everything.
The weeks that followed were a testament to both Oliver's remarkable spirit and Lila's patient dedication. Every morning, she would arrive at 7 sharp, greeting each animal but always stopping longest at Oliver's recovery enclosure.
Good morning, Mr. Oliver.
She would say formally, and swear she could see him straighten up a little as if preparing for a social call.
How are we feeling today?
Physical therapy for a bobcat was typically a nightmare of defensive swipes and attempted escapes. But Oliver approached it like a dedicated student. When Lila and Dr. Winters introduced gentle exercises to strengthen his healing leg, he would watch their demonstrations intently, then attempt to replicate the movements.
It's like he's taking mental notes.
Dr. Winters marveled one afternoon, watching Oliver carefully place his injured leg down, test his weight, then look up at them as if asking, "Like this?"
He's always been a quick learner.
Lila said proudly, as if Oliver were her star pupil. The truly extraordinary behavior began about 2 months into his recovery. Oliver had graduated from the medical ward to a larger rehabilitation enclosure, preparing for eventual release back into the wild. The space included natural elements, logs, rocks, a small flowing stream, designed to maintain wild instincts. One afternoon, Lila was sitting on a bench inside the enclosure, observing Oliver's progress. He could walk without limping now, could even manage short sprints. She was making notes on her clipboard when she felt a gentle pressure against her knee. Oliver had approached silently, as bobcats do, and was now sitting beside her bench. Slowly, with deliberate care, he raised one paw and placed it delicately on her knee. Lila froze, clipboard forgotten. In 5 years at the sanctuary, she'd never had a bobcat voluntarily initiate contact. Carefully, moving like molasses, she lowered one hand and gently stroked Oliver's head. The purr that erupted from him was like a small motorcycle engine starting up. His eyes closed in absolute bliss, and he leaned into her touch with complete trust.
"Well, I'll be darned,"
whispered Tom McCready, the sanctuary director, who had been watching from outside the enclosure.
"Lila, I think you've got yourself a bobcat who thinks he's a house cat."
From that day forward, Oliver's requests for affection became part of his daily routine. But what set him apart wasn't just that he wanted to be petted. It was the impeccably polite way he asked for it. He would approach Lila, and only Lila at first, with measured steps, sit down at a respectful distance, and then reach out with one paw to gently tap her leg or arm. If she was distracted, he would wait patiently, occasionally offering another soft tap like someone politely clearing their throat.
He's like a Victorian gentleman.
Lila laughed one day as Oliver performed his ritual.
May I have the honor of your attention, madam?
The other volunteers initially didn't believe the stories. Wild bobcats simply didn't behave this way. So Lila began inviting them to observe, always warning them to move slowly and speak softly. Betty Kowalski, a 55-year-old volunteer who had been skeptical, became a convert the day Oliver approached her while she was cleaning his enclosure.
He just walked up, sat down pretty as you please, and put his paw on my boot.
Betty recounted in the break room, still amazed.
When I petted him, he purred so loud I thought my hearing aid was malfunctioning.
Word of the polite bobcat spread through the sanctuary community. Visitors began requesting to see Oliver, though Tom was strict about limiting interactions to protect both Oliver and the guests. But for the regular volunteers and staff, Oliver's affection requests became a highlight of their day. Dr. Winters developed a theory.
He lost his mother so young, right at the age when bobcat kittens are learning social behaviors. But instead of becoming antisocial, he's created his own protocol for interaction. It's fascinating. He's essentially invented bobcat etiquette.
Oliver's vocabulary of polite requests expanded over time. A single paw tap meant, "Please pet me." 2 taps meant, "Please don't stop." If someone was eating lunch nearby, he would sit at a respectful distance and slowly blink, never begging, just expressing polite interest. The most remarkable display came during his 6-month evaluation. The question of release weighed heavily on everyone's mind. Oliver was physically capable of surviving in the wild now. His hunting instincts were intact. He efficiently caught the live prey released into his enclosure for practice. But his socialization with humans was unprecedented.
He's not a pet.
Tom reminded the assembled staff during the meeting.
Our mission is rehabilitation and release.
But is it ethical to release an animal who's formed such strong bonds?
Dr. Winters countered.
He comes running when he hears Lila's voice. That behavior could be dangerous in the wild.
Lila sat quietly through the debate, her heart heavy. She wanted what was best for Oliver, even if it meant losing him. That afternoon, she sat in his enclosure for what might be their last quality time together.
They're trying to decide your future, Oliver.
She told him as he performed his ritual paw tap request for attention.
I want you to be free, to live the life you were meant to live. But oh, I'll miss you something terrible.
Oliver seemed to sense her sadness. Instead of his usual position beside her, he did something unprecedented. The 100-pound bobcat carefully climbed onto the bench and curled up with his head in her lap, purring like distant thunder.
You ridiculous, wonderful creature.
Lila whispered, tears streaming down her face as she stroked his spotted fur.
What am I going to do without my afternoon gentleman caller?
The decision came from an unexpected source. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources contacted Tom about their education program. They were looking for an ambassador animal, one who could help teach the public about bobcat conservation without stress or danger.
He'd be perfect.
The program director said after observing Oliver's interaction with the volunteers.
We've never seen a bobcat so comfortable with human presence. He could help us change people's perceptions about predators.
And so Oliver's role transformed. Instead of being released or kept in sanctuary limbo, he became Minnesota's first official bobcat ambassador. A special enclosure was built that allowed him to retreat from public view when needed, but also included a comfortable area where he could interact with educators and special guests. Lila was officially designated as his primary handler, a title that delighted her.
It's like getting to work with my best friend every day.
She told her parents during one of their weekly video calls.
Who else gets to say their colleague is a bobcat?
The education programs were an immediate hit. School children who arrived terrified of the wild animal would leave enchanted by the polite bobcat who sat like a gentleman and demonstrated how to ask nicely for what you want.
See how Oliver asks permission before approaching?
Lila would explain to wide-eyed kindergartners.
He's showing us that even fierce predators can have good manners.
The highlight of every presentation was when Lila would demonstrate Oliver's petting protocol. She would sit on a bench, pretending to read, while Oliver performed his approach. The soft awe from the audience when he gently placed his paw on her arm never got old. But the most touching moments came from the senior citizen groups who visited. Something about Oliver's dignified demeanor and polite requests resonated deeply with the elderly visitors.
He reminds me of my late husband.
One 90-year-old woman said, tears in her eyes as she watched Oliver's gentle interaction with Lila.
Always such a gentleman, never demanding, just kindly asking for affection.
Lila, despite being decades younger than many of the visitors, had a gift for connecting with the elderly guests. Her patience and warmth reminded them of their own granddaughters. Oliver seemed to sense which visitors needed extra attention. During one memorable visit, a man with advanced Parkinson's disease was brought by his daughter. He hadn't spoken in weeks, his daughter explained, and she'd hoped seeing the animals might spark something. Oliver, who normally stayed close to Lila during presentations, suddenly walked to the fence near the man's wheelchair. He sat down, reached one paw through the specially designed interaction slots, and held it there, waiting. With tremendous effort, the man lifted his shaking hand and touched Oliver's paw. The bobcat purred so loudly it resonated through the enclosure.
Dad?
The daughter gasped as her father's face transformed with a smile.
Soft.
The man whispered, his first word in a month.
Nice kitty.
There wasn't a dry eye in the house, including Lila's. Oliver maintained the contact until the man's hand grew tired, then slowly withdrew his paw and returned to Lila's side, as if he knew his work there was done. Years passed, and Oliver's fame as the politest bobcat in America grew. Videos of his gentle petting requests went viral, sparking conversations about the emotional complexity of wild animals. Scientific papers were written about his unique behavioral adaptations. But for Lila, Oliver remained simply her dear friend. Every afternoon at 3 o'clock, she would arrive for their private time. The sanctuary was closed to visitors then, and it was just the two of them. On this particular afternoon, the one where our story began, Lila was more tired than usual. She'd been pulling double shifts at the sanctuary while also working on her PhD dissertation, and the exhaustion was catching up with her. She'd settled onto the bench in Oliver's enclosure, intending just to rest a moment. Oliver, now a magnificent adult bobcat in his prime, had apparently decided that Lila needed special attention today. His approach was even more careful than usual, and when he placed his paw on her chest, there was something almost therapeutic about the gesture.
You always know, don't you?
Lila murmured, beginning to pet him.
When I need a little extra love.
The afternoon sun slanted through the enclosure, catching the golden highlights in Lila's long blonde hair, which she'd left loose today instead of in its usual ponytail. Oliver's purrs vibrated through her hand, a living reminder of resilience and trust. When she paused in her petting, distracted by a memory of that scared, injured kitten from years ago, Oliver's gentle tap brought her back to the present.
I'm here.
She assured him, resuming the stroking.
Just remembering how far we've come together.
Oliver settled more firmly against her, his weight warm and reassuring. In the distance, she could hear other sanctuary animals, the call of the rescued eagle, the chatter of the rehabilitated raccoons. But here, in this moment, it was just a young woman who had found her calling and a bobcat who'd taught each other that love comes in many forms and that sometimes the most profound connections happen when we least expect them.
You know what, Oliver?
Lila said softly, scratching behind his tufted ears just the way he liked.
I think you figured out something most humans never learn. It's not about demanding love or taking it. It's about asking gently, accepting gratefully, and always remembering to say please.
Oliver's only response was to purr louder and place his paw once more on her chest, right over her heart. And Lila understood perfectly. In the language they'd developed together, part human, part bobcat, all love, he was saying thank you. As the sun set over Pine Ridge Wildlife Sanctuary, painting the Minnesota sky in shades of rose and gold, other volunteers began to arrive for evening feeding. They smiled at the familiar sight. Lila and Oliver, the wildlife biologist and the gentleman bobcat, sharing their daily ritual of quiet affection.
Still at it, I see.
Tom called out, grinning.
Always.
Lila replied, not looking away from Oliver's contented face.
Some friendships are worth maintaining properly.
And Oliver, the most polite bobcat in America, purred his complete agreement. After all, he'd learned from the best that good manners and a gentle heart could overcome any obstacle, even the divide between wild and tame, between human and animal, between loss and love. In the end, that's what made Oliver's story so special. Not just that a wild bobcat learned to ask politely for affection, but that in doing so, he taught everyone around him that connection, respect, and love transcend all boundaries. And that sometimes, the most profound healing happens when we simply reach out a paw, politely of course, and ask for what we need. As darkness settled over the sanctuary, Lila finally rose to leave. Oliver escorted her to the enclosure door, as was his custom, and sat watching as she latched it behind her.
Same time tomorrow?
She asked. Oliver slow blinked his agreement and padded back to his favorite sleeping spot, dignity intact, heart full. And Lila walked home with a smile, already looking forward to tomorrow's 3 o'clock appointment with the most gentlemanly bobcat she'd ever had the privilege to love.